Cool.
So are we live now, or is it actually in 2 minutes?
It's actually live, so people can hear us and they can see this. So don't say anything embarrassing right now.
Got it.
Hear us? Do they hear us?
Yeah,
I
hear
see
us.
the bottom where it says you're in the show. Welcome to the party.
Is this a video overlay or just an overlay? Because
it's a video overlay.
It should say that you're muted down. Like on yours, does it say it's muted down at the bottom left, Catherine?
Nope.
No.
Huh.
Nope. And even on yours, David, if you go back and look at some of yours, you're definitely not muted.
Oh, are you serious?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they can totally hear me right now. All right. So we're going to give 1 more minute for Sam to find a better location to get back in, and he may pop in and out. And then Heidi, I'm going to ping you first after I give the intro.
All right.
I hope everyone has their cocktail.
I do.
Yes, I do.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Okay.
What is that?
Is someone like doing construction?
You'll see in a minute.
Oh,
yeah, great. Okay.
All right. $15 seconds.
Okay.
All right, everyone, we are live. I know Sam is trying to find a better spot, but before we, is that what that is, David? Everyone's curious as to what the heck that noise is.
You said I could put swag stuff in the background. So
fabulous, fabulous. Well, okay, let's go ahead and kick it off. Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. I am Catherine Mills, and you are listening to the CRUDE Audacity podcast, the podcast that talks shop shit and all things strategy with oil patch influencers. Today's happy hour is the business of cheap oil, and we will be stacking up the oilfield services and tech sector for impacts and pivots that we're seeing across the patch right now. I am joined by some oilfield A-listers and one who is trying to find a better spot for internet because he is out in the field. But these people truly represent a new wave of energy. From, innovation to new frontiers, these guys are leaders, they are collaborators, and they are inventors. So I'm so thrilled to get everyone's perspective. Let's see, Sam is still not on, so hopefully we'll get him. But before we go ahead and kick it off, just a little bit of housekeeping. If everyone tuned in could go to Apple and leave me a 5-star review, that would be awesome. If you are on YouTube, hit subscribe, and I will make sure that all of these influencers down in the show notes, you can find them on LinkedIn easily because they are the people to follow. Also, I am encouraging everyone to leave comments and start pinging us with questions as we go through the panel because this panel truly represents almost every single corner of oilfield services and tech. And I actually had to write it down to cover everyone. But we have contract operator, oil field media, frac analytics, advanced reservoir characterization, SCADA, HSE and EHS, automation, machine learning, AI, some big buzzwords in industry, land management, directional drilling, in-house asset management, compliance and regulatory, and of course, the Small Operators Society, where, I mean, this is truly oil field, just reach across the board. So panelists, I know it's kind of a full panel. I want everyone to get a chance to voice their opinion. As you know, I encourage jumping in, agreeing, disagreeing, challenging, elaborating.
I disagree.
This is definitely about the dialogue. So going ahead and kicking it off and jumping straight into it, Miss Heidi Gill, will you please tell us exactly who you are, who's your company, and what you are providing to oil and energy these days?
Yes, that's a big question. So I'm Heidi Gill. I'm the founder of Urban Solution Group, and we are a oil field service company that provides mitigation plans for primarily drilling and completions, plans and products. So we have a flagship product, which is a patent pending, the sound walls that go around drilling hydraulic fracturing locations. And we really focus on technical innovation paired with social awareness and acumen and social compatibility. So that is kind of in a nutshell what Urban does. And we really will help with planning everywhere from siting through reclamation, and then offer products for drilling and completions primarily. And then noise engineering, modeling. We do a ton of consulting with social compatibility planning. Helping operators learn and understand the different areas in which you're operating is really critical, especially when you look at procurement and supply chain, of how you'll have socially compatible operations fit for specific areas and MOUs and regulatory environments. So that's Urban. And then just briefly started my career in the oil and gas space, working for Anadarko Petroleum. And with Anadarko, I was hired originally to help with external interfacing, stakeholder relations, that interface between the community and operations. Then really fell in love with proactive mitigation and everything that was entangled in that. Pretty much all the shit actually no one really wants to deal with is what we deal with. So like people that are angry, technologies that can help, regulations that are difficult to meet, and also sometimes don't make the most sense. So we try to help operators navigate some of that space. But Anadarko really focused on mitigation. So everything for noise, light, dust, odor, aesthetics for drilling, completions, production, and midstream. Then went on to HSE there, and then eventually moved to asset planning, where I was there before leaving and starting Urban about 3 years ago.
That's awesome.
The elevator pitch.
Yeah.
I love that. Mr. Josh Churlik, you are up, and I intend to put you on the spot. So tell us all about what you do.
So I'm the CEO, co-founder of Well Data Labs. We founded the company in 2014. Our focus originally was unsucking frac data. And that was our mission, was to get this data collected and grown so that it can move into a predictive analytics world. We've expanded that mission to focus more on unsucking technical well data as we've moved into other verticals like drilling. And really, we take the data, we make it easy to use, and then we wrap it with machine learning tools so that we can start moving faster in our analytics rather than having to click through every single chart to label and characterize data. So hopefully that's helpful. In the frac market, we're on more than 50% of the active fracs in North America, and have so far saved many man hours in terms of collecting and labeling data.
That's amazing. And a huge shout out to Josh. Actually, I know many of our listeners right now follow Hacker Village. Josh is one of the reasons we were able to make Hacker Village happen. He was the first phone call I made, and that is why Matt Bauer and I actually get on every month and teach a free class on Python. So Josh is definitely a force to be reckoned with in the oil and energy space. Biyi, do you want to tell us all about who you are and why you left off your last name?
Why I left off what?
Your last name.
Yeah, I didn't think that was important.
I did it too.
Yeah, my name is Olaoye. I currently work for Premier Oilfield Group, and I guess some of you must have seen the group. Our LinkedIn is pretty active. I work with the Reservoir Solutions Group, and I have a team that does everything from, I'd say, seismic to tank. Previously, I started my career in Algeria, North Africa, and moved to Europe, Canada, and now the US. I can say I've fracked on 4 continents. Rock is the same everywhere, we can break it. And yeah, what I do now is more very tailored to unconventional assets. And it's all about getting the most out of the ground, considering the environment right now. It was already getting tough even before the pandemic. So, this only makes it tougher and makes everyone here does very important to giving the best to the clients.
So full disclosure, Biyi was actually my boss when I was at Premier, and he is the reason I can actually put advanced reservoir characterization on my resume. And the poor man has had to deal with me almost on a daily basis since I left Premier. So he is one of my greater mentors, and I'm so thrilled to get him on. So secretly, just so everyone knows, the reason you're on this panel is because I need y'all to form a new super major for me and handle the new wave. But with that, Mike Mills, can you tell us who you are, what you do, and all about Bluetick?
All right. Hi, I'm Mike Mills. I'm the president of Bluetick, and we provide SCADA solutions for the upstream and midstream oil and gas market, primarily for small and medium-sized independents. I just work with a great team, and we can provide a huge variety of applications for any type of monitoring solution that our customer needs. And that's kind of us in a nutshell. We've had a good run here. I've been involved. Bluetick's been running about 12 years. And so I've been directly involved in oil and gas for that long, but indirectly involved probably about 30 years through some family members. But,
me.
yeah, except you're not that old yet.
I'm pretty old. So Mike, actually, if anyone looks at my LinkedIn, I am now a media strategist because of the podcast for Bluetick. So be sure to keep your eye out on them. They're making waves and better data. So it's pretty exciting.
That's right.
One of our panelists, I'm just going to give it a shout out because the poor guy is stuck in his car and can't find a bandwidth. So before we get to our last one, Sam Bradley, who is co-founder of the Small Operator Society. Y'all, this has almost 60 small operators throughout the Rockies and in Colorado. In their society, they are disrupting the chain. They are regulatory compliance. He also does contract operating and in-house asset management, just a full spectrum company, all from small operators perspective. And he's really unseating some of the bigger guys out there that do that. So if we can't get him back on, I will do a separate interview with him because what he's bringing to industry is just super unique and it's totally disruptive. But speaking of disruptive, Mr. David Gibson, you are changing the oil field game across the board. So tell us all that you do, from Gibson reports to VDoorLocksmith and everything that you touch.
I really don't do anything. I just kind of hang out at my office and waste time before I have to go home in the evenings. No, I am the co-founder, president, CEO, whatever. You can give me the job title that best suits whatever LinkedIn algorithm that's going to chase me down and send me nonsense. I started a company called Gibson Reports. We do a directional drilling and MWD market share reporting. We're able to tell people which service companies are working for which operators, how much work they've done, and where they're doing their work. So that's the little sales pitch for that. I also have a show called the VDoorLocksmith, where we broadcast live on LinkedIn and YouTube, and potentially here in the near future, other channels as well. where I'll go live and we'll interview and present educational material to the oil and gas industry, everything from drilling to, like we said earlier, buzzwords, artificial intelligence and machine learning. We just had IBM on this past week. So that's a little bit of what we do with those things. And then I stay pretty active on LinkedIn, also do marketing consulting, business consulting, podcasts, and consult people on how to do live streams. So
he consulted me. I called him out of the blue and said, "Hey, you don't know me. What is live stream?" And now he can't get rid of me, much like the rest of you. So
I'm always happy to help. And I have to say something real quick. So to Josh, thank you very, very much. You don't know this, but last year at the SP Energy Dot, I was doing a couple of live streams for my show. And I left early that morning to be able to make it out to Houston, and I forgot my wallet at the house. We finished up the day, and then I realized I had parked inside of a parking garage that didn't take cash, had to have like a debit card, and I had no way to be able to get out. And I met Tim Buttrell, y'all's VP of sales, and I met him and we were talking and stuff, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I got to go to this thing. I got to catch an Uber." And I was like, "Look, I'll give you a ride if you'll just pay for me to get out of the parking garage." And he was like, "Yeah, sure." I was like, "Oh my God, thank you." I was like, I didn't know how I was going to get out of here. So huge thank you to Josh and Well Data Labs for picking up the tab on my parking garage ticket there.
That's awesome. That's a great story. Tim actually told me that story this afternoon.
Oh, he beat me to it by like 4 hours.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's maybe less than an hour, but that's a pretty funny story. Glad we could help.
Well,
that just goes to show that the people over at Well Data Labs, they'll help you out, especially when you're in a pinch. You're in a parking garage without your wallet and you need to get out. Give them a call.
They're your people.
Parking tabs and beer, we're good for those at least.
They're actually good for quite a few things. Josh is actually one of the founders of what's the exact phrasing, Josh? The data week.
Oh, Denver
Startup.
Yes, huge deal. And you host the monthly or quarterly advanced machine learning trainings.
Oh, we do Power Up.
That's what it was. Power Up.
It's kind of a unconference, if you would, where we try to take machine learning projects that are occurring in the oil and gas industry and get people to share those without having to kind of write a paper and have it accepted to a major conference. So that way, some of the kind of ugly, dirty projects that may or may not work, all of that learning gets shared. Because there's so much info in those stories. But yeah, that's a fun. We've done that now 4 times, twice a year. It's really awesome.
So to David's point, if you need to get out of a parking garage or learn about machine learning and data analytics, stalk Josh Churlik.
Or stalk my team. They're so much smarter than I am.
Well, guys, again, one of the reasons I have you all together is because I really do want you to start our next super major. But on that note, there is a new frontier coming out of oil and energy right now, specifically in the oil and gas service sector. We're seeing the rise of tech. Not all new tech is good tech. Not all data is good data. So in the downturn that has been the 2020 Black Swans, and I know everyone's sick of this question, but the reason you're here is to give us some unfiltered insights. As we are watching oil prices crash, as we're watching them come back up, what are the conversations you are having with your team, with your investors, with your management, your board, all of it? What sort of were y'all thinking for these last 6 months that have been the whirlwind of 2020? Biyi, let us know.
Interesting you said to start with me. I'd say one of the biggest things that we do, whether it's a downturn or it's on the downturn, is to, before you provide any solution, you need to really ask yourself, does it move the needle? right? Just like you said, there's a lot of tech out there, there's a lot of data out there. The average frac today gives you 50 to 100 data points every second, and you do that for 3 hours. And of all that 500, 400,000 rows, what second moves the needle? Is it the breakdown? Is it the ISIP? Is it the trend? Is it the average? Like what matters? And when we can answer that question, I guess we wouldn't be as surprised by these events as we are right now. Because I'd say during the boom when things were really good, we probably didn't pay as much attention to the data. And that's why it's good to have companies like Well Data Labs that boom or bust, they'll collect the data. And then we could always go back and analyze and figure out, okay, what did we do wrong? What can we do better? And that's basically what we've done. And that's what we're focusing on right now is what do we need to do to make sure that every dollar that's invested brings back the most return. And because, there's the saying that shale is king. I think COVID is king right now.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, and I'd say free cash flow is the real king. But you won't see investment if you can't turn cash around. Right. So what we ask ourselves is, like I said, what moves the needle? And if I go to specifics of what we do, but Premier Oilfield Group has there's a huge lab, there's a huge data collection of cuttings, and what we're doing is building a model that identifies the rock properties across multiple basins. And every pound of proppant is equal, but every pound of proppant in a different rock does not give you the same result. So should you do 2,000 pounds per foot in the north versus 1,000 pounds per foot in the south? Can you get the same result from that? I don't think we answered those questions well enough when things were good. I think that's where we are right now is
go back to data, go back to science.
There you go. Go back to data, go back to the science and ask yourself, what should I have done? And if that works, what should I do going forward?
Well, David, you're in media, oil field media, and you're in directional drilling. So with this downturn, I mean, rigs are falling left and right. What is your perspective and how are you guys managing, or what were you doing to manage?
So one of the things I like to be able to keep in consideration as so far as what's taking place is, this is being considered another downturn for the oil and gas business, right? And I've had this conversation with many people, not only now, but also in the previous, 2015, 2016, where it was like, oh, I've been through 3 or 4 downturns, or I've been through this downturn. And to me, if this is affecting you to the point to where you're going to go bankrupt, then you didn't learn your lessons going through the previous downturns. So when we got this company started, I told my cousin, the co-founder, I said, look, at any moment things could change, whether it's up or down. And so we've always kind of kept our balance books and our financials in a shape to where, like, no matter what takes place, like, we can still survive for 18 months, 24 months, whatever the case may be. So in all honesty, we haven't really changed anything. And outside of that, when big change takes place, that means that there's opportunity. And it's a time where you can either create opportunity for yourself, or you can find opportunity within the industry to be able to help companies. And it's what we've seen with our company is that not only on, or especially with, I should say, with the data side of it, is that we've had clients come to us and say, hey, look, we can't afford to just go out there on a sales effort and just do whatever. We need to be more laser-like focused and be going after the opportunities that are going to potentially lead to success at a higher percentage. And so that's what's helped us, in being able to actually, maintain a certain level of workload during this time. We have lost clients, but we've lost clients for the exact same reason that we're gaining clients. Some are saying, we just have to tighten our budgets and we have to cut back on things. And the others are saying we have to tighten our budgets and cut backs on things. So we need to have data that supports the decisions we're making. So on that side of it, I don't want to say that I've been excited about this, not the disease and stuff like that, but opportunities and the chance to be creative and find new solutions. That's been great. The media side of it and the show side of it, the show's absolutely exploded. There's been a craving from the industry to be able to stay in touch with one another, to be able to not so much, I would say, like attend events, but to be able to continue to consume information and stay relevant in what's going on. And obviously, I think probably a lot of people saw this at the very beginning of the the whole stay-at-home portion of this. Back in mid to early March, when companies were just starting to say it's not good for everybody to come to work. What I was able to see is the social media traffic, not just on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. It was everywhere across the board. Social media traffic was way, way, way up. And so then I was at that point in time, we said, okay, let's change up the format of the VDoorLocksmith show. Let's see what we can do to be able to, get that audience of people that are just sitting at home with nothing to do. I shouldn't say nothing to do, but they wanted something else to do other than work. And that's where kind of the show took off. And to what Biyi was talking about just a minute ago, where he said, during this downturn, companies are looking closer at their data. The same thing happened in 2015, 2016. If you look at how long it took us to drill horizontals in West Texas in late 2014, by 2017, it was like half the amount of time. We went from, 21-day or 28-day wells down to like 14-day wells. And now we're still seeing that. And we're going to continue to see these wells be drilled faster and faster and faster, because more people have more time to be able to look at what's actually taking place. And the operators have to be able to cut costs. And one of the best ways to be able to cut costs is to cut the number of days on operations, whether that's on the frac side or on the drilling side.
Very true. And this new introduction of oil field media, I know all of y'all are slowly experiencing it as well, but it's something where it's kind of bridging the gap between society or those who are not in industry and those in industry. It's making data honestly more transparent, which is something that, Heidi, you have firsthand experience bridging the gap between non-industry and industry. So, and solving from that. But what were you seeing over on your side at Urban?
Yeah, so initially, so our primary product, similar to David's, would have been to follow, we follow the rig. So we went from, building our fleet. So we own our sound walls and we rent them to operators. And we had built, over 6 miles of wall, which is pretty incredible. When you think about an average location is about, anywhere from like 1,000 to say 1,800 feet. And we have, over 32,000 linear feet of this product. And we're still a newer company. And we were completely committed for all of 2020, like not a foot of linear footage, not to spare. And so we went from, having conversations with operators about prepayment for manufacturing and growing the fleet to then now we're like, wait, we need to get a yard and we need multiple yards because you can't have it all at the same yard. And so very first and foremost, it was, we obviously had a massive hit right away to our primary product and kind of like the lifeline of the business. Urban is backed by, we're well-funded, had, I would say, the proper financial practices in order to ride this out. It really does take, you can have the best idea in the world and everybody has a great idea, but if you don't have a good business acumen, you're not surviving. So that would be something that I said that I think that Urban had really well is, I had great advisors, a great board. The one thing that was interesting is I did go to my investors when everything, tanked, and I was like, okay, like shit's literally bad. So here's where we're at. Like, who handled this last time? And it was like radio silence, and which is rare from our investor group. And the most experienced one of all of them came to me and they're like, Heidi, it's actually never been this bad. I was like, oh, that's your advice. Okay, well, I'm gonna go figure this out. So yeah, we took a big hit, immediate. And fortunately, urban was built for the type of future that I think that oil and gas is going towards. It was built on the foundations of like what I think that sustainable energy development is going to be inside or be for the United States. So we had actually been working on a pretty large pivot that we're still working on now. We're still in final negotiations on our commercial terms with our pilot customers. So we're not telling it yet, but I did tell Catherine when we are launching it, she'll be the first interview that we do. But we had already started looking at, we deal with a lot to do with humans, and really like quantifying humans and human emotion and turning it into data is one of the most challenging things. But like when you're able to do that, it's extremely valuable. And so that is a portion of kind of what we're looking to bring to the space. And that's all I'm going to say on that for right now. But so really,
come on, tell us everything you're not supposed to say.
Else, right? just enough. I know. I was like, how do I get on this thing, drink wine, and not say anything? But I'm going to get there. Depending on how
we're
long.
Coming back to you at the end of the show after we've seen you put a couple of those away.
Exactly. Once the bottle's empty, then ask me again. So I think that we had fortunately already been looking at something. And so this time right now, while our operations in the field have like drastically slowed down, we are not like at home, like licking our wounds. I mean, we are working harder than ever, and we're doubling down on CapEx investment for this industry. And, I think that what's the quote? Like you can either be the pessimist.
Drunk or not.
That is true. I prefer the former. But yeah, so we basically just said, okay, like everything really sucks right now, but I really do believe in the sustainability of our industry. I believe that it's going to be around. So we're doubling down. So right now we're busier than ever, working to continue to stay relevant with our customers, add value. And then we're planning on just coming out swinging as the market rebounds. And, so I think that largest lessons is don't let how bad the situation is paralyze you. Not making decision, we're being responsible with our money. Don't be penny wise, pound foolish. If you see an opportunity, you have to have the guts to step up and take it. Otherwise, you're never going to be the one that's moving and shaking and making things happen. And so, that's really what we've tried to do, is not let fear be an Achilles, but instead turn it into a fuel for innovation based on the same fundamentals and foundation our company was built on.
I think that's awesome. I'm actually going through y'all for a specific reason here. So building on to Josh here, the scary word in industry or outside of industry used to be drilling, and now it's frack. And it does sound like a different word, but it's something that we need, to Bee's point, to David's point, not necessarily more data, but better data in the downturns and in the upswings. And we saw frac crews just falling off the map. I think last I checked, there were 30 active right now, maybe 15 at this point. So how is Well Data Labs? I mean, y'all are bridging the gap for providing that data, that making it more digestible in terms of, bringing things online. So what were you guys thinking? What was your senior team saying at negative $40?
Where's the
I was thinking a negative 37. Yeah. In negative 37, I was taking pictures of CNBC, so I would remember this one day. And because I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm going to store this somewhere. I think the frac crews right now, depends on what numbers you reference, somewhere around 75 or 80. They were pretty low. That's still very low. Speaking to some of that, we had a recession and an oil market trouble thesis coming into the year. So in December, we had a management leadership team where we said, we think there's a recession potentially, and we definitely know oil companies are going to have a problem, because they were having problems as late as a year ago with cash flow and having to meet operating requirements. Mm-hmm. So we just had this thesis for it being a very rough year. And we had started making shifts in January, February to products and services mix that would get traction in a bad year and add value and help our customers. So when the oil, like Russia started warring on the U.S., Saudi started warring on Russia and the U.S. with prices, we walked in that Monday morning and paused all hiring. Had a leadership team meeting, had an all hands meeting explaining, hey, we're going to prepare to see $10 oil, and then it'll go down dramatically. It's going to feel like we're falling into an abyss, and then it'll come back a little bit. So we prepped our entire team that Monday and then put that case into action. And then COVID hit, everybody went to work from home. And we get this scenario back here now for several months. My daughter joins a lot of meetings, and but we were prepared and oriented, and we're not afraid. And then you start figuring out, how do I help my customers through this? Because you had customers in February that had growth aspirations this year, right? They were upticking, making larger commitments, ready to go, and then 30 days later they're like, oh, we're zero. We're doing nothing. and that's a 30-day swing. That's such a shock to the industry. And so at that point we're like, okay, how can we help our customers? Many of them are afraid of losing their jobs. Many will lose their jobs. How do we help them navigate this process too? And that was really what a lot of April and May was about. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but really what it came down to is we had a little bit of enough foresight to be prepared. And then, but just because you're going to get punched in the face doesn't mean you want to get punched in the face.
Yeah, and it's a very true statement.
and we were able to navigate through it. And then now we've got a whole suite of services and diagnostics for running, kind of helping you understand more intimately what's happening during your frac in real time, kind of combining work that we licensed from Devon with some machine learning and combine that with some real time. And now we can help you understand the wells you are doing. We can help you understand them better. And we're finding that's resonating really well right now. And then in terms of improving your data, the industry does a lot less look backs than it thinks it does.
He's just nodding.
So
he's
true.
Like, oh, shit. He's absolutely right.
Not a more true statement.
Disgusting look backs, man, and I see a lot less than I hear people talk about. But there are quite a few companies that do it really well. To David's point, and I think at the end of the day, it comes down to kind of what Heidi talked about here. We have an onboarding slide. So part of onboarding people into Well Data Labs, I have an oil price slide that goes back, I forget how many years now, but many years. It's got a price collapse into 14, 15 on it. And I have innovate here written across it, right? And so we onboard people into our culture with the understanding that there will be oil cycles, there will be price drops, and that we will innovate there. And we'll lean into that mode, and that's just culturally built into us, and it's paying off this year. Several years and years of building that in our culture is paying off.
Well, I'm noticing a theme across you four. I'm excited to get to Mike. I will say that I made this leap in 2014. I fought it for as long as I could, having grown up in industry. And I've been in a perpetual downturn. So I am loving what you guys are saying, because there's nothing but opportunity. However, people outside of industry are still demanding better data. We need, to Biyi's point, we need to go back and actually learn from the look back. So I think Josh and David have hit on this as well. And now we have to make that data digestible. So Mike, you are SCADA. You look at development projects, you send active data, more accurate data. You're actually unseating a lot of the big players. So what were you seeing? Was there an increased demand for SCADA during this downturn so that people could work smarter and more efficiently? Or did you have to have some tough conversations?
Well, I think a little bit of both. And you touch upon what everybody else is saying. And that's when, everybody's running leaner. So business expects technology to fill the gap of personnel that they're laying off. And while that can be done to a certain extent, you still need to keep the personnel. I know that's a message people hate to hear. And you would think it'd be great for the technology companies. But, we run through this. We end up listening to what our customers are telling us. And that's where we're making our shifts and our pivots. And so we're kind of listening currently right now at the worst time ever. We have the worst losses in 30 years. Now they're putting imposing all these new regulations on the oil and gas industry. And it's funny because at the federal level, they're talking about deregulating. And at the state level, they're adding regulations. So as our customers are calling us and talking to us about that, we're kind of we're still working within the oil and gas industry, but we're supporting a lot of more service companies. And the other side of it is, of course, we do get calls from customers, or new customers and existing customers, and it's something you're going to probably touch on later. But it's about how to get more for less. So
Yes.
we're dealing with that as well. But something interesting that I think everybody's touched on this as well is about the digital transformation. We know about the digital transformation of better data analytics and everything moving forward in oil and gas from the operator side. But as everybody was talking, I was thinking about the digital transformation that's occurring with us. Me especially. I realized to be, we're always been small, flexible, lean company, but I realized that, we have to do a better job at our digital transformation, and thus we're on the show right now. At least, I'm on the show right now, and and it's just kind of interesting that the data transformation is much bigger than just data analytics, and things like that. Though that's what we focus in for business. But I've lost track, Catherine, of what the whole question was. Sorry, I went up on so many tangents because everybody was talking about so many good points. I was thinking, oh yeah, well, hit on this, hit on that.
No,
I feel like you crushed it. Yeah, you crushed it.
You actually did. You nailed it on the head. But what I'm hearing from all five of you is that no one should have been surprised, even with the COVID and the black swans. Was it ideal? No. But every one of you seems to have prepared for it in one way or another. I mean, Biyi, you are in consulting. You're sitting there doing advanced characterization. You're building frac models for full basins. And your clients are still coming to you for advice and, feedback. But to Mike's point, we're also seeing a lot of push for the leaner. It can't always be leaner. At some point, there's just not enough people to get the job done. So how is everyone balancing that? How are you handling that conversation? Jump in all at once.
So let me start with, so when it comes to what you touched on as to building, say, a model for an entire basin, I think one of the things that differentiates North America from the rest of the world is that we've got so many operators, and very few operators have contiguous land. Mm-hmm. So if I were to compare with, say, national oil company, all the logs in your country belong to you. So you own the trend, you know what's going on from 1,000 miles away from where you are right now. But with the way things work in the United States, and with small operators and big operators all having assets right next to each other, the best way to build a model that works is to work together. And that's what we're beginning to see.
We're seeing collaboration for the first time because of this downturn. Exactly.
Well, it started before the downturn, but the downturn even makes it more necessary in the sense that there is so much volume and so much work that needs to happen to keep the production pace growing that we don't have so much time for engineering. So if you just look over the fence, you might get it wrong. But if you integrate and collaborate, put all the data together, then I understand now why this recipe works 2 miles north, but it doesn't work 2 miles south. And that's one of the things we're trying to build with a lot of our clients. We have a collaboration space, 2 collaboration space actually, and that's still building. And everyone that comes in, you bring in your data, it gets integrated. You've got access to the model, but you don't have access to each other's data. So we keep the collaboration with the competition. And I think that's the point we need to get to.
Are you guys across the board seeing more collaboration in y'all's sectors of the field?
I'm seeing some.
I'd say for our stuff, I mean, we end up collaborating a lot internally with the customer cross teams, right? Because if you're looking at how you execute an operation, if you're near people, you could crush it in drilling, but if you completely screw it up in completions, it doesn't matter. The operator's brand is still damaged. So we help kind of start to finish there. I would say that from like a tangible service of like, our patent pending walls, we're not like working with our competitors in that capacity. Sometimes we work on the same pads together, so it's a little bit different. But I do agree with your point for that type of data and the way that development needs to be here in the United States. Operators have to learn, like, yes, there's the secret sauce and all that makes sense, but at some point you have to look at like the larger picture and the strategy of how do you get this acreage cored up to be able to develop, learn from the next, because we're running out of mulligans as an industry. Mm-hmm. And that's a real thing, right? And we have very really? No. It's like okay, so if you mess up, it's a golf term. Oh. Somebody could probably, if you swing and it's not good, you could get a mulligan. You buy them at charities, but I'm sure it founded on something different than taking people's money, but it's a do-over basically. And we're running out of the opportunity to go back and continue to do over. So I think there's some elements of our industry that just have to get better at collaborating, because we're not going to be able to be a sustainable industry here if we don't get good at some stuff and we don't get good at it quick. Josh, I don't know.
Some of it also depends on what you're thinking of when you say collaboration, because data trades, data consortiums, informal data trades have gone on for a very long time. And it's when they start to get very formal that the organizational antibodies like gridlock it. And it's like
organizational antibodies, aka the legal team.
Right.
That word. Many of those folks are my friends.
Coming from operations and reservoir, when in doubt, blame the driller.
There's many ways that this happens, but even inside of operators, you see a hesitancy to collaborate across basins or across teams. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a new completions engineer come into a team and immediately discount all the work that the previous individual did as if it was irrelevant and they knew nothing. All the time. That's a form of like not willing to use the work that was done before me, right? And so I think there's a lot of like, what is collaboration and how should we use the data that's around us and better partner? As a software service company, we partner with anybody that we can, even if it's a competitor, if it adds value to our customer. We have zero fear of that. And because I look at it and say, if I'm worried about them copying a graph and that graph cost me my business, what a shitty business.
Yeah.
Because it's not the graph that is the model. And
Mike?
About it.
No, I was just thinking it was interesting how, have you ever found yourself being the communication bridge between different groups in the same company, and you're wondering, why am I that person? Why am I communicating in these
every day.
It's frustrating.
Yeah.
Well,
and then you want to be like, hey,
you're also
want to call.
I tend to be that person with the
upstream, midstream, and downstream. Are you seeing those spaces start to collaborate more for better solutions for the actual life cycle of oil and gas?
Was that to me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Well, it's funny. I see the collaboration more in what we're doing with like other service companies that aren't doing exactly what we do, but they find that, working with us, they provide a better solution, as Josh was saying, to their customer. And so we're starting to do a lot more partnering like that and collaboration, and for like gas detection companies or compressor monitoring services, or a whole variety of ancillary services that are needed in the oil and gas arena. And so I've been seeing a lot more of that. That's been picking up pretty well.
So
I like to say that if there's not a little bit of overlap, there's probably not a real clear reason to collaborate, right?
True.
Exactly.
And that's really, I find that to be pretty true.
So
and we do that across the board with just urban, we have some stuff where we offer products, but we still do an analysis for the full thing, or, for the whole kit and caboodle. And so I agree that is the area where, especially having been an operator, my vendors that were willing to work together to provide solutions are the vendors that I keep on during a downturn, right? Yep. So I think that's what's so critical is that, sometimes we'll even run a model for something and we don't have that particular technology, and we say, these people do. And that I think is really important, because at the end of the day, who wants to hire someone who's not like looking out for the true best value of the business? And I think that sometimes gets lost a lot of time in the service sector.
Right.
No, I completely understand. So this is for Biyi and David. And these might be some fighting words, but I'm just saying from our comments here, drilling is the only place that has gotten efficient over the years, and completions can't seem to get it together or even get their costs down. So
can I go first?
Yeah, go for it.
Yes. Yeah, I'll go first so I get on David's good side. I totally agree. And that's linked to something Josh brought up, right? He said you work in an organization and you get a new completions engineer, and it does away completely with what the previous completion engineer did. And that's because in completions engineering, we've done a poor job of understanding hydraulic fracturing. And it is still a science. It might look a lot like you could just copy paste and do what you did in your previous company, although you worked in the Eagle Ford and then you slap the same design over here in the Delaware. There is a science to this, and it all comes from understanding the rock, and that comes from data. So David, the drillers have a good understanding of mud weights, or where they have breakouts. You wouldn't use the same mud weight north in Eddy County that you'll use down in Lee County or down in Pecos County, for example. But if you come to the completion side, I used to do 2,000 pounds per foot. I used to have 5 clusters, 20-foot spacing, and it worked. I'll do exactly the same thing. So yeah, I totally agree with. I saw that question. I wasn't going to answer it, so I don't throw my completions brothers under the bus. But it is what it is.
I guess I can't really argue with that. I think the only way that we could really cut completions cost is just to start drilling conventional wells again.
We might.
Just go back to conventional reservoirs.
Surtech would love you right now. That's all we do.
So you've got companies like D3, they're an operator that they will put out there, and they'll say that's all they do is they stay in conventional reservoir space, and they are still going. They still have rigs out there that are running, and the amount of work that they're supplying to their service companies are doing fairly well. So not to say that like completions is out of the. I can't talk about anything. Once they've hit TD and on the drilling side, like I don't know what takes place out there, and honestly, I don't care if the well caught on fire. I have nothing to do with it. I've always been just an MWD guy. So we get done, and they're like, "Get out of here," and I'm like, "All right, have fun. Whatever happens, casing gets to bottom, whatever." Like, there's like so much I have to just admit, like there's so much that happens after that I just don't know about. And I know that the pressure has been on the drilling side to be able to cut costs, drill these well faster. And then that gets into like the whole business model, the directional drilling and the drilling side of the business, where it's, a lot of people charge per day. But if you continually keep drilling faster and faster and faster, you're not so much drilling yourself out of work, but you're drilling yourself out of margins. If your business model was dollars per foot, then the faster you drill, the higher your margins are going to be. So there are some changes that need to take place in the industry, and some of it is just looking at, okay, do you want to know 100% of what your revenue is going to be, or do you want to know what your cost is going to be to a factor of how many days you're out there? And so it's just stuff like that, to where if we take a step back and start looking at just how do we structure the contracts, how do we structure the relationship with the clients, and then to kind of get back to what y'all were talking about just a minute ago, as far as compatible or data sharing and stuff, yes, some service companies might work with another service company, like a bit guy with a directional drilling company or something like that. But what would really be helpful is the operators, not just working with other operators, but an operator putting their data out there for service companies to be able to use in a way to be able to bid for their work. So if a service or an operator was to come out and say, hey, look, this is how much we're paying. This is what our AFE is. This is what we're getting right now. Can you beat this? And if they just put it out there in the open, I mean,
Save a lot of time.
Gosh. I mean, the amount of people that would just jump on that and be able to say, if they made one LinkedIn post, it would get a gazillion comments, all the likes and everything, to help blow them up as far as marketing and stuff. But they would be able to find new suppliers, new vendors, and give everybody the opportunity to be able to come in and say, hey, look, I saw in your AFE you budgeted, $500 for the porta potties. I could get you that down to like 100. Just something that simple. It's like, okay, there's other ways to be able to save monies, and a lot of it is just by them being brave enough to be able to put out there and be open and say, look, this is what we're paying right now. Can you help us beat this price? And that doesn't have to go into like data sharing. It doesn't talk about, what type of bit they're running, what the weight on, like what their drilling parameters are, what their frac mixture is, any of the secrets. It's just like, this is what we're doing and this is what we're paying for. Can you beat it? That level of transparency, I think, is something that's never been done and could definitely change the way the industry works.
So you just gave everyone listening a job idea.
That's right. I think that concept's been rare to find anywhere in any industry. You would love that kind of transparency.
We aren't a fan of transparent data, and yet all of y'all are doing what you can in industry to bridge that gap with data, more accurate data and digestible data. So I know we're getting towards our hour mark here. So I'm drop a big question
we're like 3 questions in.
I want everyone to really hone in on is, what does the future of oilfield services and oilfield tech look like? I know, having been in this industry for 5 years now as an engineer, almost everyone I know has been laid off. It's very weird to have a job. I'm very grateful for my job. But the other side of it is, if you haven't been laid off probably at least once in the last couple of years, you were one of the few lucky ones. So we're getting leaner, meaner, but we're also seeing a crew change because of these black swan events. So with innovators such as yourselves, what does the future of industry look like? How do we come back, and what opportunities are there to really, change the future of oil and gas from what we see and know of it as today?
I'll jump into it first. I'll say that with the opportunity, because so many people have been laid off, and I should say this first, if you have been laid off, do not take it personally. I have been laid off 3 times. I have been fired twice. I would fire myself today and lay myself off all over again just to be able to keep going through the lessons learned. So first of all, do not take it personal. Some people have a stigma against it, but those aren't the people in the oil and gas industry. And a lot of other industries right now are figuring out what layoffs are all like. So I think oil and gas people right now that are going through layoffs are the best suited in the general population, probably because they've already been through stuff like this. So keep your head held high and don't let that get you down. The next part, as far as the innovation that's going to be taking place, there's going to be a lot of people that are senior level individuals that are going to get let go. People with great ideas, and hopefully some of those people can find each other and come together to be able to create new and differentiated products that are not in the industry right now, or if they've been
guys,
or that have been sitting on ideas for a long time and they knew that they had suck ass management that wouldn't listen to them, and now they can, they can say, okay, I would have floated this idea at my previous company, but nobody was going to listen to me. Now I can go to my friend and to this other guy, and we can put together our own little team, float the idea, and then actually go out and create a business. As far as the way that that's going to go in the future, I do believe that oilfield tech and oilfield innovations, that companies are going to try to find ways to be able to do a better job of diversifying themselves so that they're not 100% in oil and gas. They're going to try, and we're seeing this right now across the board, not only with the oil and gas companies, but with the service companies, of being clean energy, renewable energy, anything energy related. So for myself and our company, we are looking at ways to be able to do custom software development for people outside of oil and gas. Me personally, I'm doing business development and marketing for other organizations and stuff. So you're going to see some of these companies, they could still be core oil field services or oil field technology, but they're going to constantly keep that eye out for opportunities that lie just outside of their normal realm, to where if they need to be able to pivot, they can take their entire sales team and say, okay, this market is down right now. We'll leave these 2 people for these couple of accounts. The rest of the team, you guys go full force over here and let's go grow this side of the business that we've been kind of, dabbling in for a little bit.
That's how we formed, David. I mean, we formed out of a big layoff, and myself and some other guys got together and we started the company. And just to touch on that point, to let people know out there that might be in a similar situation, there's investment money out there right now, because good investors know that this is the time that you invest in good ideas and hard work. So yeah, I agree with you. Stay positive out there. It'll happen.
But Mike, you're actually one of those companies, as David is talking about, you're one of those companies that's pivoting for some of the fringe opportunities and transferable skill sets.
Exactly. And so we're looking at other markets too that just kind of naturally flow into the whole SCADA and monitoring type solutions. There's municipal water. There's so many other industries out there that kind of do this temperature, flow, pressure. It's a lot of the same concepts as in oil and gas, and we're working those as well. And we do have another product, which is a land management system. And even though that, is originally geared around E&Ps and land brokers, it can be used in a variety of different applications, as well as in timber or in other industries that need any kind of land development, So yeah, there are a lot of opportunities out there. And to touch on about, the industry itself, I believe it's going to come back. I mean, if you look at how far it's, of course it was a huge crash, but it's already lifted out a pretty good amount. What's interesting though is that, natural gas didn't really take the hit. In the past, natural gas always would take the hit. Now this time around, it really, percentage-wise, it didn't take as big of a hit, and it's come back quite a good ways. Oil, on the other hand, is probably, took the major hit, but everything now, it's on the verge where now you're starting to read in the news about different companies. You read about companies exiting certain plays, but you're reading about other companies coming back to those plays and starting to open them up. They're starting to rehire. So, it was a double whammy of the Arab-Russian pricing thing, but at the same time, and then of course compounded by COVID, but at the same time, you see positive signs. Maybe shale won't come back as quickly or anything, because a lot of companies have closed down, but I think it's coming back. We're going to have a strong economy again.
What about you, Heidi?
I was going to say, I completely agree with what you guys are saying. I do think that diversification is critical. And I think that, Urban's looking at all those same opportunities. We've been predominantly field oriented, of like tangible physical operations in the field. We are, sorry, my really big dog. It's not a kid, but no. I don't know how you handle kids. I can barely manage the dog. But apparently she's over this. But yeah, so I think that in general, looking at the diversification opportunity is huge. Urban's looking at making a completely different pivot that will service this industry and others, but it's going to be outside of probably what people think probably will be bringing to market. And then to David's point, I think that the future of who is going to survive in this industry and who's going to stick around. Number one, if you're a founder and you're out there and you're looking for money, there are people looking to invest in a good deal. And at the end of the day, anyone that's not willing to go and peddle their idea in this market, who would want to give you money anyways? So I could see investors being like, hell yeah, that person is hustling in this downturn. That's someone I would give money to. So I do think that there's really great opportunity there. And there are people that no matter what know that this industry is not going anywhere. I would just say that I do agree. I think that whether it be in the field or in the ivory towers, sometimes good ideas and innovation have been overlooked, unfortunately, and not always. I think that there's been, this industry is incredible with how it innovates and rapidly changes. But I do think that there is still sometimes where it's like, well, that's just how we've done it. And I think that mentality is going to go out back to die. I think that the future is going to consist of like-minded people that understand balancing compliance, economics, operational feasibility, investor return. That's going to be the future. And so the idea of like, this is how we used to always do it is not going to stack up to when you say, we can get you X amount of efficiency and increase your, revenue by X%. No one's going to look at that and say, oh, well, let's just keep doing it the same way we used to. So, it's unfortunate that we're going through this. There's obviously a lot of families and individuals that have been impacted, and my heart goes out to them. But I think that there will be people that will stay. They're going to innovate. They're going to build an incredible future. In fossil fuel development, in renewables, there's going to be a diverse energy future. But at the end of the day, it's going to be the people that are keeping up with the times that stick around and stay relevant.
So B, what do you think from a consulting standpoint? Because we're seeing layoffs with engineers and geos and just across the board in the service side. We're seeing it now on the operator side. We're seeing the age of consolidation even more. I mean, we've had a bunch of big acquisition announcements in the last 2 weeks. So where do you see the future of industry and how is it going to be shaped by all these major events?
So I agree with everyone. I believe it's going to come back.
Don't disagree on anything.
Okay, well, maybe we can disagree on when it will come back.
Right.
I agree that I know, or I think it's going to come back. Demand is definitely going to come back, and the need for oil and gas will be there. One of the things that is very characteristic of the oil and gas industry, especially fracturing, is the fact that the field is way ahead of the ivory tower. The field is ahead of schools. Like I looked at some universities and look at the curriculum in petroleum engineering, and some schools still teach PKN and KGD, and that's where they stop. Like those models became irrelevant the moment we cracked the first shale rock, right? So I think there's room for.
I wish I knew what those things were.
I apologize. Yeah, but completions guys
don't need to know what they are.
Sounds like he'd be a good guest for your show.
He's been my mentor for about 2.5 years. He can't get rid of me.
Exactly. So just go PK and KGD. I'm pretty sure someone will write what it means. But we've done so much more work in the field than research has done. So there is room to go back and actually update the curriculum and make things more relevant. And I guess that's why a lot of engineers who graduate come into the field and they feel lost because nothing that you were taught at school is applicable.
The acronyms are.
Yeah. The second point, the second point I have is, there's a lot of room overseas as well. Like there's so much new technology that's coming up, developed in the States, as the States has always been the leader when it comes to oil and gas. That's applicable overseas. I remember fracking in Germany, and our pumps could not release beyond a certain amount of decibel in terms of noise. Like IT's product is great for that. So like there's room all over the world. So it's gonna come back. Shale is gonna come back, maybe not as fast as everywhere else. But while you wait, look out there, you can consult for a company that needs some efficiencies. Like there are fracks all over the world. Might not be at the same pace as you have in the US, but the knowledge from here is very, very transferable.
It's interesting you say that, B, because I've listened to, I'm not an expert by any means, but like I've listened to some fitness podcasts in the past. And there's a lot of people within that industry that will talk about there are the practitioners who will be doing something prior to the university study that comes out and states like, eating before bedtime or doing these certain kind of lifts or, you need to supplement with this thing to be able to. And so there are people that have figured those things out so far in advance, and they're like, yeah, we're the practitioners. I don't need a study to tell me this. It's like we've already been doing this for years. And I think that has a parallel within the oil and gas industry, that yes, there is a lot of things that are being taught, especially on the directional drilling and MWD side, that, you know, I still go and see some study material stuff, and I'm just like, yeah, it's got some relevancy, but it's not the same today. And so obviously hearing you say that, then there's a lot of areas on the other side, you know, past, you know, TD in the well, that, you know, they're having those problems as well, where, you know, we have a lot of those practitioners that are out there doing great things and leading the way, but then there's not the documentation that spreads that knowledge out, which gets back to what Josh and Biyi and everybody else was saying earlier, is like, you have that changeover of individuals, and then all of a sudden they're like, dumb, we're just going to go do stuff. And it's like, but we already learned all those lessons. Why do you need to learn them again?
So Dave, what we see a lot is we see those lessons get forgot, they get lost. You know, it's just knowledge transfer, right? I think technology can play a role in that, where we you know, down the road, when we have more data sets across more functions streaming into platforms like Well Data Labs or other platforms or whatever an operator or service company has, you know, like what we're doing with sealed wellbore pressure monitoring, that was really just an advanced diagnostic that some really brilliant thinkers came up with. And they had a process that they went through, and they filed some patents around the techniques for collecting the data. And then we've automated that and made it repeatable with machine learning, right? And so now you can take this process that are very bright people, and you can apply it to every frac anywhere, you know, using machine learning and technology. So I think, like, if an operator has brilliant engineers like Biyi here, it sounds like, I don't know about Dave so much, but
he's kind of a badass.
But you could. If you've married a subject matter expert with a great data scientist, whether it's from a company like Well Data Labs or someone you have internally, build some models and figure out, you've got to implement it in a way that it gets across the entire company. How is it running in the field? How is it in the office? How are you impacting decisions? Now you're spreading your best thinkers everywhere. And you can rev that as your SMEs learn more and iterate it and build on it. And it's such an amazing opportunity that we have not begun to touch yet. And I think going forward, I'm super bullish on oil and gas. I think it's an important mix of the global energy supply and demand for a very long time, sans some sort of miracle, miracle in green. But
right.
You know, if we start looking at, like, we're going to have less people, we can't add more people and make cash flow positive businesses. It doesn't work. So we have to make better workflows and take the Bs of the world and put them everywhere using technology. And that's
You may
invest and learn and innovate. And we need service companies and operators have to get very forward on that, or they'll probably be really far behind in 18 months.
So
Josh, I can't.
You guys are all proving my point here in my total manipulation. The five of y'all combined could change the face of oil and gas. I love watching y'all collaborate.
Change the world, Captain.
I can't, Josh. I am just saying. Can't wait to talk in about 4 weeks.
I want to say this because I
completely agree with you.
I have a great business idea then. And I think Well Data Labs could do it with Biyi in conjunction with the operator. So here's the idea, is that every time there is a lesson learned, it gets put into the data system, so that if that, like, let's say it was a failure or something was done wrong, and when the computer or analysis in real time sees that something's taking place, something flags and says, hey, you're about to do something wrong. Here's the lesson learned. Click on it. It happened on this well. So that data, so that knowledge, that knowledge transfer happens in real time. So because one of the biggest problems with knowledge transfer is I've worked at, large organizations, whether it be Schlumberger or my previous career working at UPS, right? There could be something that happened at our facility in Dallas, Fort Worth that was also happening at, the major hub in Atlanta, Georgia. Right. And so, like, if we had our little lesson learned, it just went on to, like, the little knowledge platform, and it was then the responsibility of the employees to get on there and keep themselves up to date, as opposed to where if there was an operation taking place and then it's all of a sudden like, hey, you're doing the same thing that ran into a problem over here. You should probably stop and read this little lesson learned thing. That way it's in real time and it gives those people the idea. So I'll leave that up to Josh B and Catherine to you guys be able to create that system.
We've already got 95% of that. It's, you have legacy data.
So the last 5% of that equity goes to
the last 5% is tagging and labeling those things that were bad events so that you can spot them in the data the next time. But what I think is so wonderful is our customers have been with us a long time, have tens of thousands, hundreds of wells of time series, 1 second by second frac data. And so if we figured out what was wrong and then went through it, labeled it, we could show them how often it occurs and then flag it for them, just like you're saying going forward. But then you've got to get that data set first, and then you can build on it. And so we've spent years and years building the data set and the platform to enable just those kinds of ideas.
I mean, that's the perfect recipe for a operator consortium, and it could be on drilling or on completions, both of them.
I love this. Well, guys, we are totally going to have a follow-up panel with the 5 of you, and I will follow up with Sam Bradley because he is a badass. We totally just lost Heidi. She's up in Breckenridge and her stuff is spotty, but perfect timing. Guys, thank you so much. Everyone watching, listening, even if you're not.
Fahim, Lee House, the guys at Neuralis, Brian Dugas, all of you guys that are watching, thank you guys for being out there and watching in the support.
Thank you.
David, Mike, B, and Josh, Heidi, and then eventually Sam. These are the people to follow. So I will be sure to put all their information down in the show notes so that everyone can get in touch with them. But thank you guys for all you do, for always showing up, and for really leading the change that's going to be happening out of this downturn in 2020. A lot of us owe our full future to you guys. So we really appreciate all you do. No worries, Heidi. We really appreciate all you do and all of your innovation. So thank you so much for joining today's panel, and I look forward to round 2 with all of you guys.
Great talking to everyone.
Thank you.
Guys.
Great. I'm
going to start my computer died.
Labs is hiring. Go to our website.
Oh, Well Data Labs is hiring.
What?
Boom.
That's news. Why didn't that come out in the first 30 seconds?
I don't know.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. My computer died. I thought I would make it till the end, but I didn't. We will be posting a job and hiring soon as well. So
Excellent.
Now it's a competition. Who else can say it? B, Mike, Catherine, anybody else want to say they're hiring?
In the future.
Guys.
Yeah, in the future.
Those job postings, I will make sure that they are included to help for everyone who paid attention today. I will make sure that audience gets to see them first. So shoot that my way and I'll get it up tomorrow.
And be sure to go and follow the CRUDE Audacity podcast. Go download it. Give them a 5-star review. Follow Catherine on LinkedIn. Follow this channel right now. If you're watching here, whichever one you're on, Facebook or YouTube, be sure to like, be sure to follow, be sure to comment, engage in the comments and stuff on LinkedIn. It's only going to help you. Trust me.
And you're a badass. Thank you so much. Awesome. And you guys have a good evening.
You too. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.